Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakaramaham Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We have, I see, many devotees from the Bhakti retreat. We're still retreating. We're retreating, and the best thing to do in a retreat is what? Hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, and especially to do so from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking we were reading from 10th Canto Bhagavatam from what I saw earlier on the board. Now I'm given the 5th Canto Bhagavatam, chapter 14, verse 9. Is this what we're... Yeah, okay. Yeah, sometimes it's interesting and a little challenging to give a Bhagavatam class completely cold. That means you don't know what the verse is, and it's like, okay, let's see what Krishna wants me to read. Okay, this is Canto 5, Chapter 14, The Forest of Enjoyment. Verse number 9, which is, strictly speaking, not a verse, it's in prose. Was something written on the board? No. Okay. So I'll just read. But before we do that, I need to see what we're reading. Who's speaking here? It's been a while since I read this chapter. This is being spoken by, is it Bharata or is it Rishabha? Oh, it's Shukadeva Goswami. Okay. Interesting. Yes. So this is chapter 14, which is leading up to the famous descriptions of the universe, which have us all wondering what they mean. But here we have the forest of enjoyment. Kvacit vātyaupamyayā pramadayāroham āropitas tat-kāla-rajasā rajanī-bhūta iva āsādhu-maryādo rajas-valākṣo pi dig-devatā atirajas-vala atirajas-vala-matir na vijānāti. Okay. Sometimes, kvacic, as if blinded by the dust of a whirlwind, the conditioned soul sees the beauty of the opposite sex, which is called pramadayā. Being thus bewildered, he is raised upon the lap of a woman, and at that time his good senses are overcome by the force of passion. He thus becomes almost blind with lusty desire and disobeys the rules and regulations governing sex life. He does not know that his disobedience is witnessed by different demigods, and he enjoys illicit sex in the dead of night, not seeing the future punishment awaiting him. And Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport as follows. In Bhagavad Gita 7:11 it is said, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. Sex is allowed only for the begetting of children, not for enjoyment. One can indulge in sex to beget a good child for the benefit of the family, society, and world. Otherwise, sex is against the rules and regulations of religious life. A materialistic person does not believe that everything is managed in nature, and he does not know that if one does something wrong, he is witnessed by different demigods. A person enjoys illicit sex, and due to his blind, lusty desire, he thinks that no one can see him, but this illicit sex is thoroughly observed by agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the person is punished in so many ways. Presently in Kali Yuga, there are many pregnancies due to illicit sex, and sometimes abortions ensue. These sinful activities are witnessed by the agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And a man and woman who create such a situation are punished in the future by the stringent laws of material nature. Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Illicit sex is never excused, and those who indulge in it are punished life after life. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, asaram yonim apanna mudha janmani janmani mam aprapyaiva konteya tato yanti adamang gatim. This is from 16th chapter Bhagavad Gita, verse 20. Attaining repeated birth among the species of demoniac life, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Excuse me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not allow anyone to act against the stringent laws of material nature. Therefore, illicit sex is punished life after life. Illicit sex creates pregnancies, and these unwanted pregnancies lead to abortion. Those involved become implicated in these sins, so much so that they are punished in the same way the next life. Thus, in the next life, they also enter the womb of a mother and are killed in the same way. All these things can be avoided by remaining on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, joy. In this way, one does not commit sinful activity. Illicit sex is the most prominent sin due to lusty desire. When one associates with the mode of passion, he is implicated in suffering, life after life. And so ends Srila Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada repeats this, it seems, at least 3 times, this life after life. He really wants to drive this home. Trouble, life after life, and all for some very brief enjoyment, and an enjoyment which one thinks no one is witnessing. And the point is made here that the demigods are watching, they are witnessing. In the verse, or the prose, is the expression asādhu-maryādo, who is without proper respect for the higher witnesses. So maryāda can mean boundary. We have the expression maryāda vyatikrama. This comes in the 3rd canto, where Vidura is speaking with Uddhava, and he's hearing from Uddhava, who has just been with Krishna, who has just departed the world. And Vidura is on pilgrimage, and Uddhava insists, we can say, that Vidura should hear from Maitreya. Maitreya is the senior person, the senior sadhu present, and Uddhava does not want to commit the offense of maryāda vyatikrama, the overstepping a boundary, specifically, which means because he is in relation to Maitreya, apparently he's junior, although he is the dearest friend of Krishna, as we heard from Keshav Maharaj in the retreat. Still, he's thinking he is in an inferior position to Maitreya. Anyway, maryāda vyatikrama, and we also have the expression maryāda purushottama. Maryāda purushottama is sometimes a description of Lord Rama. Ramachandra is referred to as Maryāda Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of boundaries, of propriety, of dharma. In contrast to Lord Krishna, who is Lila Purushottama. Lord Krishna is he concerned with boundaries or not? Is he concerned with propriety? What you say? No. Do you all agree with this, or do you think yes, no, maybe, sometimes? Yes. In any case, the emphasis in this expression is he is Lila Purushottama. Now, I have to confess, I don't know where this tradition originates, this idea of Maryāda Purushottama, Lila Purushottama. It seems to be a kind of popular tradition, and it may be a somewhat recent one, but I think it's interesting and helpful to see the sort of contrast between Krishna and Rama in terms of their attitudes. But here we have asādhu-maryāda, one who is without proper respect, as Prabhupada is translating it, for higher witnesses. In other words, one who is asādhu. Sadhu means asādhu is a sadhu. Everyone knows what a sadhu is. Sadhu also means good, and sadhu means proper, or we can say sagely. So the opposite, asādhu-maryāda, one who's disregarding the boundaries, we could say like that. Disregarding the boundaries. And disregarding the boundaries may be for the reason which is suggested here, which is simply lust. It's said kvacit, sometimes. And the comparison is made with a vātyā, with a whirlwind. Because of the whirlwind of lust, which arises when one sees an attractive person of the opposite sex. It's kind of humorous. Āroham āropitaḥ, raised onto the lap for sex enjoyment. Āropitas means climbed onto, literally. Tat-kāla-rajasā, at that time of rajas, of rajaguna, and then rajanī-bhūta, the darkness of night, iva, in that situation, then something happens which is improper. Rajas-valākṣo, blinded by strong lusty desires. Dig-devatā, the demigods of the directions. It says in the word for word, like the sun and the moon. In countries like Switzerland, where at some time there's a lot of time when the sun is not appearing and the moon is not appearing, one might think, therefore, there's no witnesses. Right? No, they're also seeing, even if there are clouds. Atirajas-vala-matir, whose mind is overcome by lust, not vijānāti. He doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know the consequences. So the cause of all of this, what is Arjuna asks in the Bhagavad Gita, what is the reason for acting improperly? And what does Krishna famously reply? Yamuna. Rajavidya, rajaguhyam. No, that's not what I want to say. Why did I say that? Kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguna samudbhava, mahashano mahapatma, vidyenam iha, vairinam, the enemy. So it's interesting that which we take, when lust overcomes, then we think that lust is a friend, when it's actually an enemy. This is the trick of Maya. And as Prabhupada is referring here, Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. It's very difficult. Atiyaya means to cross over, and dur-atiyaya means very difficult to cross over. All of this, we can say, is happening because of, or is the main factor by which we do things which our better self tells us not to do, is association, bad association. There's a story in the Panchatantra. I heard recently Bhakti-Vaibhava Swami was telling this. There was a lion and a jackal and a crow and a camel. And the lion was in trouble because the lion had become old, aged, and was therefore not able to acquire its food. And the jackal was also in trouble because the jackal depended on the lion. When the lion would get its prey, then the leftovers were there for the jackal. And the crow would come after the jackal and take the remnants from the crow. But now the lion is no longer able to go on the chase. Just some very recent time before this, a camel has come, and the lion, being also something of a, we might say, gentleman, says, welcomes the camel as a guest. And but now there is this problem. How are they going to get their food? And the jackal approaches the lion and suggests to the lion that why don't you just go after this camel who is now here amongst us? Very easy to, turn him into our meal for this afternoon or breakfast. And the lion says, no, I can't do that. I have received him as a guest. We can't, we can't eat our guests. And the jackal says, right, but if he would volunteer himself, then it wouldn't be a problem, would it? No, that wouldn't be a problem. Okay, so then they call a meeting. The lion is there, the jackal is there, the crow is there, and the camel is also there. And they open a discussion. How are we going to hunt? How are we going to deal with this situation now that the lion is unable to catch prey anymore? And the jackal says, I volunteer myself. What is the use of my life anyway? Let me dedicate it for a higher purpose. And to have his life sacrificed. And the lion says, no, that's not a good idea. You're not good food. And the crow says, well, I'm, so insignificant. Let me give my life for this higher purpose. And the lion laughs and says, that's ridiculous. You're just a crow. You're not even going to satisfy our appetite. Then everyone is silent. And then the camel says, well then, let me sacrifice my life for a higher purpose. And immediately the lion pounces on the camel, and of course the jackal and the crow, everyone is satisfied in this way. The moral of the story being, be careful what association you go into. The camel got into bad association, and he got sucked in to believe that what he should do is give up his life in this way. Anyway, it's a story, but it kind of illuminates for us and illustrates something from this. The chapter, The Forest of Enjoyment, is an extended analogy. It's taking the image of a forest, a situation, and extending it out to illustrate the point of what is material existence. It is like a forest, and then so many examples within the within this situation. One example being this of the person in the forest blinded by the dust of a whirlwind, the consequences of which then are described. So that's what's being given in this chapter. I'm going to be brief on this because we're going to have a little ritual in just a few minutes, I believe, if our priest appears. And before I do that, though, I want to share with you something a little bit off the subject, but it's always on the subject. Something which I confess I came across on the internet. It's a little dialogue. Maybe you've heard this. Do you want to hear? It's called, In a Mother's Womb, There Were Two Babies. Have you heard this? You've heard? You want to hear? In a mother's womb, there were two babies, and one of the babies turns to the other. The first baby says, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" And the second baby says, "But of course, there has to be something after delivery. Maybe we're here to prepare ourselves for what will be later." And the first baby says, "Nonsense, there's no life after delivery. What kind of life would that be?" And the second baby says, "I don't know, but there will be more alive than here. Maybe we'll walk with our legs and eat with our mouths. Maybe we'll have other senses we can't understand now." And the first baby says, "That's ridiculous. Walking is impossible, and eating with our mouths, that's absurd." Jagannath Subhadra Baladev ki jai, Shri Gaura-Nitai ki jai. Walking is impossible, and eating with our mouths, that's absurd. The umbilical cord is what scientifically supplies nutrition and all that we need, but it's far too short. Life after delivery is to be logically excluded. And the second baby says, "What if it's just different than it is here? Maybe we don't need that physical cord anymore." And the first baby says, Okay, if there were life after delivery, then tell me, why has no one ever come back from there? Delivery is the end of life. And every delivery is nothing but darkness and silence and oblivion. It takes us nowhere. And the second baby says, but certainly we'll meet Mother and she'll take care of us. The first baby, Mother? You actually believe in Mother? If Mother exists, where is she now? And the second baby says, she's all around us. We are part of her. It is in her that we live. Without her, this world would not and could not exist. And the first baby says, I don't see her. It's only logical that she's not here. And the second baby says, sometimes when you're in silence and you really listen, you can perceive her presence. You can hear her loving voice calling down from above. Hare Krishna. Yeah, the lesson is clear, isn't it? It's so obvious to one of the two babies and so unobvious to the other. It's so much the situation of the atheist versus the theist. Life after this life, not possible. Yes, definitely possible. Okay. Any thoughts, reflections on this rather dire situation and warning of today's passage? Any or reflection on, yes?
If you don't like.
Thank you. It's on. Thank you for the lecture. In the shloka, it is mentioned the reincarnation several times of Bhagavad oneness, the birth of the world, the punished, and for even while I came to Krishna consciousness, the idea of reincarnation is important because without this information, I cannot able to understand some of the facts and bad situation in this world, and I cannot judge or understand it. And I heard that from a very good Christian in Georgia, vātya, and he said that actually there was a lot of verses in the Bible also about reincarnation, but they were deleted in 8th century. And after become Krishna conscious, when I read the Quran, I also see that there are several alluding verses of reincarnation, some of them indirectly mentioning the reincarnation. So my question is that why in some scriptures or in religions this idea of reincarnation is hidden, like in Muslim? Why Krishna created such a situation for that belief? In some beliefs it is openly managed, in some beliefs it is secretly mentioned.
Yeah, that's interesting. Why is that? Why is it suppressed or why is it hidden? Well, we could say, first of all, it is a kind of esoteric knowledge. Krishna says in the Gita, and now I can correctly quote Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam rajaguhya. It is confidential knowledge. And he mentions 2 or 3 or 4 times the confidentiality. Sa evaya maya tedya yoga prokta puratana bhaktosi sakacheti rahasyam hi etad uttamam. This is confidential knowledge. The question is, why is it confidential? Why not let it be known? Why not? Why not? Why does it have to be confidential? One possible explanation is it's easier to control people if they don't know that this is not the final event, the final life. If you think this is your one and only chance, then you can have a very powerful religious institution that insists that you do everything now. Because the idea that life goes on after this has the danger that one concludes, okay, then there's no rush. Then I can take it easy. I can have a good time in this life, and we'll look after our spiritual well-being later on, maybe after this life. Of course, Shastra is warning otherwise. No, yes, there will be more lifetimes, but what is going to be your experience in those lifetimes if you are slack in this life? You may suffer lifetime after lifetime. But you could say the simpler solution from a perspective of controlling people and having them follow some religious activity, the simpler solution is to say, this is your one chance. And after this, you have life after this, but it's either in heaven or it's in some sort of eternal damnation. Although in the I don't know in Islam, but in Christian tradition, there is the idea of purgatory, which is a kind of middle ground for reform, which is neither hell nor heaven, but it's a reform department for elevation. And I think in the famous epic poem by Dante, he calls it the Divine Comedy, which is interesting because it starts, this story he tells starts in hell, and it's a quite detailed tour of hell and all different characters and how they're suffering in hell, whom he has either directly or indirectly known from Italian history in the, 13th century? Including at least one pope he considers to have been so fallen that he ends up in hell. But then that's part one, and then there's the second part, which is this, what did I just call it, where there's some reformation, and then ultimately there's achievement of heaven. So it's called a comedy because it has a happy ending. Years ago I read a book which was emphasizing that, yes, that purgatory idea, purgatory, that word comes from to purge, to purify. And a book I read which was discussing the idea of reincarnation in Christianity was making this point, that the notion of purgatory indicates that there is a recognition that there is a longer and extended process possible. But indeed, why that is covered? I believe it was Origen, the 3rd century Christian sadhu, we might want to say, whose writings very much acknowledged reincarnation, and his writings were suppressed because of that. And he's always had a kind of ambivalent position in the Christian church because of that. You'll have to ask those who suppressed it why they suppressed it. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Mm-hmm.
Because we see that this verse talks about the relationship between the two genders, and lust is involved. And I was just thinking that we know that there is some attraction involved in grihastha ashram. And I was thinking about this point that when we hear often, as time is passing by, that this factor of illicit sex becomes a bit more acceptable. At first we had this understanding that we will have a full regulated principles, and when we enter into the grihastha ashram, then sex life is meant only for procreation. And then we had, then the devotees of course admitted that it's not that possible because of lust. And now sometimes in our institution or society or community, it is somewhat acceptable to have sex life outside of this kind of thing.
Without that intention of having children.
And we see here actually in this purport that Prabhupada is so strong.
Yeah.
That life after life, that there will be intense, punishment. So how should we go about it or understand?
Now you're putting me on the hot seat. This is one of those questions where everyone wakes up. and I'm on the spot. So whatever I say, I'm in trouble. Isn't it? And the GBC is present, so I'm even in more trouble. Well, let me say like this. Srila Prabhupada, as you pointed out, is quite strongly and quite unambiguously saying that this is the standard. And it is a standard which he often expressed things as the ideal which should be pursued. And sometimes Prabhupada would say, with regard to marriage and being a householder, he would kind of indirectly suggest that it's recognized that this high standard is not going to be followed. When he would say things like, if you have trouble, if a brahmachari is troubled in his brahmachari ashram because of sex desire, then get married. So that suggests if the solution to having trouble with sex life in sex desire as a brahmachari were just to get married and then have sex only for the purpose of having children, that doesn't seem to apply. You see what I'm saying? So he seems to be indicating that there's a recognition of that reality. At the same time, he's insisting strongly, this is actually the standard. So the way I've come to understand it is, in particular for those who are initiated, second initiation, Brahminical initiation, this should then really be the standard. This then should be taken as, okay, this is how it is, and this is how we accept. And that makes life a lot easier also, ultimately. And that becomes what Srila Prabhupada called grihastha brahmacharya, in which the focus of the householders is genuinely on service to Krishna, and because it's focused on service to Krishna, the issue of lust is kept under control. There is a spirit of cooperation for a higher purpose, and in this way, the pushings are what's the word? They become reduced and they become irrelevant because of the higher purpose, the mission of serving Krishna. That's my understanding. Hare Krishna. Suddenly there was deep silence in the room. Do you want to comment on this subject? I'm not in trouble? No, okay. Hare Krishna. Now that this subject comes up, yes.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. This is a subject, which when we share Krishna Bhakti with newer folks, comes up. But then frankly, it comes up in our own life. And I see devotees struggling with this as well. So it's not like, the other three regs are relatively easy to follow. This particular reg is more difficult. So it's a design feature of human beings that lust is so predominant. And in so many subtle ways, not just gross ways. Would you like to comment on why it's so? Is it so that when we finally overcome it and we truly become attached to Krishna, the sweetness and the rasa are so much deeper? Is that why this is made so almost insurmountable? I mean, we see exalted souls falling down. It's not just, little people like me, but, like great souls fall down to this. We read in Shastra to Vishwamitra Muni and, others. So why is it a design feature? Is there like a
design feature?
It's not a bug. It's a design feature.
Somebody's dealing a lot with computer. Loka Pavani, do you want to reply to this?
Yes, I would just like to say from my experience as a grihastha,
And as someone who was married for 17 years, I can only say that it is true what you said, but we are also not perfect. I also sometimes think that superficially suppressing a sexual desire can only lead to a lot of frustrations that can then lead to a lot of things, which does not mean that we should support it, but that people should be healthy with themselves as well in some ways. And what I also have experienced is that what you have said, that if you put Krishna in the center, then there is no artificial suppression of the sexual desire. It fades away very naturally. And also the human body is built in such a way, and I can also say it as a person who is now, like, I'm 42, now I will be 43. And it's natural. It's totally natural that when you're 20, you are at the peak of the sexual desire. And it's also natural that it will fade away.
It resides.
Yeah, and I also think that sometimes when it happens to people that are in their 50s or 60s, it's just because of, or even older, it's just because of the artificial suppression of the desire, not practicing Krishna consciousness in the right way. Because I think that, for example, I can say, like, through my service to the deities, that it just, you get a higher taste, and therefore you can leave the lower taste. You can also fall down sometimes, but I just don't think you should kill yourself. Because you should just wake up the next day and just do your best and chant your rounds and try to serve the devotees and Krishna, and it will just naturally go away. Because Srila Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is a natural way of the spirit soul. So therefore, to leave lust, it should be natural for the soul if it's engaged in Krishna consciousness.
Well said. Thank you. Spoken by someone who's been married for 17 years.
Not so much.
Huh?
I mean, some people have more experience because they have kids and so on.
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but this is my experience, and that's what I say to ladies who ask me all these things. I don't quote them scriptures.
Right.
I say, like, naturally it will go away. And if you have a desire, you find yourself a partner, and through service together, it will just, transform into devotion. Into something higher, which is devotion. So.
Sounds good. Or maybe the solution is, don't get married until you're 50, and then the desire has subsided, and then you can. No, that doesn't work. Yeah, grihastha ashram is it's brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha. It's actually a quite intelligent system. Vanaprastha is also there. Let me put in a plug for Vanaprastha ashram. That after some time, and Srila Prabhupada said age 50, so you have 7 more years. There comes the third ashram, and that's the time to, sort of back off. Even if you remain together, then the focus should go very much to service, to possibly travel, to the mission. Yeah. Good. On that happy note, thank you. I think we can end there and proceed with our next activity, yes? So I want to thank you all very much. Whoever is inclined and able, you're certainly welcome to remain and give your blessings for our 2 soon-to-be second initiated devotees, brother and sister. That's something, huh? Rasa Shraya Ram and Ramapriya Sevika. Their parents are both here, Krishnama Prabhu and Suniti Rani are here. So it's a real family affair happening. Speaking of family, and I think this is a in so many ways, a very model family that we see. So we want to bring brother and sister into the circle of devotees who are engaged in Brahminical services, not least of which in the Zurich Temple, it's the worship of Shri Shri Gaur Nitai and Shri Shri Jagannath Subhadra Baladev Ki Jai. So thank you all very much. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki, Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.